Okay, so today's topic on the tank game is shells, how to shoot stuff. So we had the shell sprite. It's going to be the same for both of them, for tank 1 shells and tank 2. Okay, so this is an animated sprite just like the tank. So the animation doesn't, it's not really an animation, it just shows the direction of the shell. You want to remove the background of that. Say OK. So just like the tanks, we're going to have a parent shell, and then we'll have child shells. First, we want to put in the parent shell that's something that's true for both shells. All right, so first we need to add a create event to the shell. So let's go to not tank parent but shell parent. Oh, we haven't created that yet. So I'm a little bit confused here. I would change this to just sprite shell because we only have one shell sprite, but we'll use it for both types of tanks. So we have to create the object first. And we'll choose our new shell sprite. Then we add a create event. So I'm adding create. And in the create event, okay, so we do a set alarm action. Let's find that. Here it is, set alarm. We're going to set alarm 0. The number of steps we want to wait is 30, which will be 1 second. Basically, we don't want the shell to go completely across the room. So you have a limited range for the shells. And the range is however far the shell can go in 1 second. Which implies then we need a alarm event. So when the alarm goes off, what should happen? So let's add that alarm event. All right, so we're on alarm 0. Basically, all we want to do is just delete the shell. So it'll fly for however far it can go in 1 second, and then it will destroy itself. Okay, so we need to add a step event. This time it's the end step event. So at the end of the step, the end of the frame, we want to make sure that the shell is pointed in the right direction when it's flying. We don't want it tumbling right now. We just want it to just go use the frame that shows the shell in the directions it's going. So what we're going to do is a change sprite action right there. We're not really changing the sprite. We're just changing which frame in the sprite we need. Now the sub image, if you look at the shell, let's go look at that first. Here's the shell, but if you edit the sprite, you see the shell has like lots of different versions of itself. And this is a shell going in multiple different directions. So there's 60 of these. There's one picture for every 6 degrees in 360 degrees. So we need to translate that into a direction. Let me cancel this. So then here, in the change sprite option, we're going to say 360. Well, that's not right. We're going to say direction divided by 6. Because we have 60 sprites, and we're going to put a new sprite out every 6 degrees, I guess. We'll shut off the animation speed. We don't want it to animate because we want to set at that direction, and then it'll go that direction. Okay, so I think that's everything on the parent. Next, we need to add a collision event with the wall. Now, the shell coming from either tank, it's going to have the same effect on each wall. Okay. So let's add that collision event. Now there's two types of walls. There's walls that are permanent and then walls that disappear. We're going to try to do both today. And what should happen here? Well, we want to create a small explosion when the bullets hits the wall. So let's do that. Explosion. This will be small. Let's load that sprite up. That looks pretty good. And we'll create that small explosion object now. Okay, typically on explosions, we want to have it destroy itself at the end of the animation, because we don't want it to animate over and over again. So we go to Other, Animation End, and then with that, we'll have the explosion destroy itself. So that looks good. So now when the shell hits the wall, we want to change it into a small explosion. And we can leave the perform events to not. Okay, so let's give this a try. All right, so here's our tank. I don't have a mechanism for shooting it yet, because we haven't made any children of the tank. So even though or the shell, even though we created a shell, there's no real way to actually use this yet, because we haven't created a child's shell yet. So let's just do that, just so that we can see the mechanism. So we're going to create the actual shell this time. And we'll call this shell 1. And we'll use our shell sprite. We're going to use the same sprite for both types of shells. And that's good, I think. So we need a means to be able to shoot the shell. So we're on the left tank here. We're going to add an event, keyboard event, and I think we're using the space bar to shoot the shell. Okay, so we're going to do a similar can shoot mechanism that we've used in other games, specifically the playing game, on whether or not you can shoot. Remember, we're trying to control the rate of fire. So we want to do a test. First of all, in the create event for the tank, if this is right. Yeah, I think this is true for both the parent tank and the... So let's open up the parent tank. In the create event, we're going to create a... it's the wrong one. Here's the tank parent. So here in the create event, we're going to add another variable right here, and we're going to say can shoot. So this indicates whether the tank can shoot or not. And we'll set it to 1, so that when they start, they'll be able to shoot. Now in the step event, I'm assuming this will be on the tank parent, but we'll see. So we'll add a step event, and every step we're going to add 1 to can shoot. So again, for our variable, we say can shoot, and we're going to say 1. We're going to add 1 each time. Make sure to click relative on that. Okay. So here in the space bar, we want to see if we can shoot or not. Well, first we need to see where can shoot is located. So we go here and we test that variable. That's this one. Our variables can shoot. And we want to say if it's larger than 0, then we'll be able to shoot. Or if it's, we'll use negative logic maybe, or when it's not larger than 0, then we're going to just exit the event, because it means you can't shoot yet. But say you can shoot. So what should happen? We're going to do a create moving. This one's kind of a new one. Instead of just creating an object, we're creating an object and we want it to move in a specific direction. So we're going to do this one, create moving. What do we want to create when we hit the space bar on the tank 1? Well, we want to create a shell 1. We'll make it relative to the position of the tank. And then we'll set the speed. I'm not sure what the speed is. But the important part is the direction. We want to set the direction of the shell to be the same as the direction of the tank. So it seems odd to say the direction is, well, direction, but that's what you do. So our speed's going to be 16. We'll fill that in. I think that's good. We also want to be we want to reset can't shoot down to -10. So we're going to let him shoot every 10 frames or so. So we're going to set the variable can't shoot here because we just shot. And we'll set that equal to -10. Now remember, each frame this will get added to one at a time until it gets above 0. Once it's above 0, then it'll allow you to shoot again, and then can shoot will be set back to -10. All right, let's see if we have anything working yet here. Okay, I'm pressing the space bar, and notice my my shell is blasting right through the walls. Doesn't seem to be limited. Doesn't seem like anything's working out yet. But at least it's shooting. Okay, so let's find out why. For the wall? Yeah, probably. I've got solid there. It's just blasting right through that first wall. Let me go to the room then, because we haven't done the other kind of wall yet. So I'm going to delete these, and I'll put in a regular wall. So hopefully the shell will hit the wall. We did add the collision event, but that doesn't seem to be working. I'm puzzled by that. Okay, so I'm shooting. Shell goes right through the wall. So in the book they want us to do this a little bit differently. So let's do that. Instead of changing the shell into a small explosion, what the book is suggesting is instead to just create a small explosion. So let's do that. Based on the shell's current position. So here's the small explosion. Make sure to say relative. And then what we want to do is destroy the instance of the tank. Not the tank, but of the shell. Now let's give this a try and see if that works better. What I'm expecting is there's no change. The shell is completely ignoring me. Okay. So the problem is that if you look at shell 1, we forgot to set the parent to shell parent. So all that stuff that we put in shell parent isn't going to happen until that relationship is made. So shell 1 is a child of shell parent, but we haven't stated that yet. And the way you do that is you go to the parent setting and say shell parent. We'll say go. Now I shoot. Oh, there's the explosion. Notice how my shot's not really coming out of the muzzle? Kind of coming out of the bottom there. I think our shell's not centered. Let's go to our shell sprite. Yeah, it's not centered. So we'll center that. And then I think everything should work. Now there's another type of wall, and this is the kind of wall that disappears for a while and then comes back. So we have to add another collision event in the shell parent. So this one is a little bit different. This is the wall that goes away. Okay, so what should happen when the shell hits the wall that gets removed off the board? Well, first we want to create instance of a small explosion. So that's here. Just like with the other type of wall. We'll make it relative to the current position of the shell. But then we're going to do something kind of strange. The walls that disappear come back after about 10 seconds. So what we're going to do is move the wall off the playing board, and we're going to be pretty aggressive here. We're going to say, the book says 100,000. I think that's overkill, but okay. So we're moving it way off the board so that they're not going to see it. And again, we don't want to move the shell off the board. We actually want to move the thing it collided with. And this is the wall that can get destroyed. And then we also want to set an alarm on that as well. So here's the alarm. Again, we don't want to set the alarm on the shell. We want to set the alarm on the thing it crashed into. And the number of steps is going to be 300. There's 30 steps per frame. We want it to be on the wall object. So we don't put the event for the alarm going off here. We put it actually in the wall too. So we add an alarm event here. And then once the alarm goes off, we'll just move it back to its starting position. Okay. Now we're going to have to be a little bit more careful here. If there's a tank there, we won't move it back, but we'll fix that later. Okay, so let's go to our room and see if our little plan works out. So I'm putting back in the wall 2s which are able to be destroyed by the tank. I shoot. Notice how the shell went through 2 walls. I think I forgot to destroy the shell. Okay, see how the walls came back? Now I shoot again. Blam. Okay. The walls come back. Okay. Okay, so we forgot to destroy the shell. So let's do that. And I think we have everything covered. Now, if 2 shells collide in mid-air, they actually want both shells to destroy or get destroyed. So this is kind of weird, but you add a collision event with shell parent. So if one shell hits another shell, what we want to do is create a small explosion like we did before. And we'll say relative. And then we'll just have the shell destroy itself. We'll just do self and other as well. Just take care of it all at once. So the changes we've made to object shell 1, we also want to make that in shell 2, so we'll do that next. Okay, so now I don't have a tank 2 yet, so I'm going to quickly create a tank 2 so that we can just collide with it with the shell, because we kind of need that. Here's tank 2. And again, we're going to shut off precise collision checking. And we'll say full image rectangle. And again that. We also want it centered. Okay, so this is another one of those sprites that have a sprite for each direction. But for now, we're not going to worry about that in tank 2. So here we say object tank 2, and we'll use the tank 2 sprite. So now we go back to our shell. We want to do this in shell 1. We don't want to do this in the parent tank, because this is unique to tank 1. We're going to add a collision event between shell 1 and tank 2. So here's tank 2. And what do we want to do? We want to create a small explosion. So we'll put that in there like we've done when it hits the wall. We'll make it relative. We also want to destroy it once it's done. That's here. And then also we want to add damage to the tank. So we would go set variable. In this case, we want to set the damage variable. And the other thing is tank 2 and we're going to say damage, and we're going to increase the damage by 10. So they can get hit 10 times, and then the round is over, the other player gets the point, and then you start again. So make sure to say relative on that. Okay, so I'm going to add a create event quickly to tank 2, just the bare minimum. This time though, instead of sprite tank 1, we're going to change that to sprite tank 2. So that's the create event. If we look at the other tank, that's the shooting event. We don't need to do that right now. That's forward, no. Here's the draw event. So I want to repeat that down in tank 2. So draw is, where's draw? There it is. I'll paste it here. And again, make sure to go back and change these sprites to the right tank. Now the two sprites look pretty much similar to me, so I don't see the difference. So I would perhaps edit your sprites to make them a little bit more unique. So now I'll put a tank 2 in the room to shoot at. And so we have the object now. And here's tank 2. See, I don't see a lot of difference there. Maybe I'm colorblind or something. They look like the same thing to me. All right. We'll give this a try. Okay, so I'm firing, and it crashes. It doesn't see any damage variable in tank 2. Make sure when you get these errors to read it carefully. It tells you exactly where it is. Action number 1 in the collision event with object tank 2 for object shell 1. So it's a collision between shell 1 and tank 2, and it's the first thing. So again, what I've forgotten to do is set the parent of tank 2 to tank parent. So don't forget to do that, or otherwise you get weird things like that. Let's try again. Hopefully we'll also see the damage bar being drawn. Okay, so I shoot. Notice how the damage bar goes down, so that mechanism seems to be working. Looks like my tank 2, well, looks like my explosion's not centered. Bink, bink. Okay, so we don't have the thing where the tank runs out of damage yet. We'll get that shortly, but. So go back to your explosion then, and make sure that the explosion is centered. And then I think we've done everything for shell 1. Now you'll need to make similar changes for shell 2, but just take a look at shell 1. The only thing you would change really is which tank it collides with. A lot of people run into this problem where they shoot the shell and the shell explodes immediately, and the tank that shot the shell loses damage. And if you see that, that's because you're shooting the wrong type of shell. Shell 1 should damage tank 2s, and shell 2 should damage tank 1s. If you get those mixed up, then you ended up shooting yourself in the foot, literally. I think that's everything on shells.